Meal planning. It's a popular topic for many different kinds of people and for as many different reasons. It saves you money and time, something I'm pretty sure everyone wants, and it can make a huge difference in your health as well. Even better, it doesn't take much to get these benefits. There are tons of resources out there for meal planning that include recipes and lists, calendars, and apps that can manage it. But today, we're covering the simplest way to start so you can experience the benefits right away. You're listening to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zawrotny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a coach certified in time and stress management, helping clients make space for what matters most in their lives. Join me each episode and we'll talk about decluttering, stress management, habits, personalized productivity, gratitude, and so much more. I understand the overwhelm of life because I'm a wife, mom to kids and cats, and a former caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and I'm so grateful you've joined me here. Since I began this podcast adventure in June 2020, your response has been overwhelming, and I want you to know how honored I am that you choose to join me. I'm careful to select topics to support you in the Positively Living mantra: do less, live more, breathe easier. And I look for guests who give you the simplest, most effective advice and encouragement. While the majority of episodes cater to moms and women in business, and though my guest and I are chatting today from a mom perspective, today's topic is helpful for anyone looking to feed themselves and their family in an easier, cheaper, healthier way. Today, I welcome Marie Fiebach to the Positively Living podcast to talk meal planning, the reasons why we want to do it, and how to do it in a way that works for us. We cover day-to-day meal planning and even add in some holiday tips as well. Marie Fiebach is a married mother of 4 active kids aged 12 to 17. In 2017, she founded Feed Your Family Tonight to help busy families eat dinner together at home and recapture a little calm in the crazy. She is a speaker, cookbook author, podcaster, and has a weekly cooking segment on Cake TV. That's spelled K-A-K-E, but I love the fact that it says cake. How perfect is that? She loves feeding her picky clan, but she dreams of the day when she and her husband can eat kale salad and frittatas in quiet. Ah, yes, I feel that dream personally as well, minus the kale. Feeding a family is not an easy task, and I'm thinking of the memes and mom jokes about how when the family is hungry, the mom looks at them and says, "But I just fed you yesterday." Yep, I may have uttered those words. Meal planning is a thing we have to figure out every single day. But when we do, it can be rewarding. And thankfully, the pressure and the stress of it can be mitigated through proper planning. The benefits of meal planning may be more than you expect, too. The big ones being saving time and money, and home-cooked meals can often be healthier than eating out. And with limitations on restaurants like we've seen in 2020, safety and control can now be added to the mix. Beyond those benefits are the more subtle but powerful ones, such as reduced stress in trying to figure out what to eat when you want to eat, which in my case also tends to lead to being hangry. And this kind of planning can promote eating meals together, which has been linked to so many benefits for children especially. Benefits like better academic performance and self-esteem, more resilience, improved mental health, and reconnecting, all of which Marie and I talk about today. There are so many powerful reasons why meal planning for families is worth the effort. What we're talking about today is also a great example of doing work up front to save yourself effort later. I talk about this concept with Hannah Donnelly in episode 21 about capsule wardrobes. The stress of figuring out what to wear every day is such a productivity bust. And when you simplify the structure, you reduce stress significantly. Meal planning works much the same way. By putting the decisions ahead of time, such as at the beginning of the week, you give yourself so much more space to think, create, relax, breathe. The challenge with many systems out there is that meal planning, like most things in life, such as decluttering, is not one size fits all. This is why I created the Simple System framework to help people declutter the right way for them, and Marie has done the same for meal planning. She shares her 3-step process that helps you focus on your specific needs. To go with our conversation, Marie has a free planner you can download from her site, feedyourfamilytonight.com/Lisa. You might want to hit pause, grab the download, and then listen to our conversation. She goes through the steps and provides lots of insights and ideas so you can follow along and be meal planning in no time. Welcome, Marie Fiebach, to the Positively Living podcast. Marie, you and I met and connected as fellow speakers through speaking coach Carol Cox, and we've both been guests on her podcast. And I listened to your podcast, Feed Your Family Tonight, which inspired me to invite you here. Meal planning is a hot topic for a very good reason, and I'm so glad you're willing to come here today to share your expertise.
Oh, Lisa, the pleasure is mine. It's so fun to see your face again. And yes, meal planning is one of those things where it can be a little controversial, but I have a system that can help anyone because, one thing about meal planning is what my family's going to eat is not necessarily what your family's going to eat. And a one size fits all solution just doesn't work.
I love that. So I had wanted you to tell us a bit about who you are, who you help, and what makes you light up. And you've already started with that. So can you continue with that a little bit and telling us how you got into this and just really what it is that you do?
Well, sure. Just a little bit of background about myself. I am a married mother of four, and my twins turned 13 this year. So I have four teenagers in the house now. So I am a mom of all teens at this point. And I know it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, but I love it. I live in Wichita, Kansas, and I knew most of my life that there was a business in me. And I dipped my toes in entrepreneurship here and there along the way. And then in 2017, I really buckled down and I took an entrepreneurship class. And the leader of this entrepreneurship class was helping you discover your best business idea. And she said, go with what you know, what you have, and what people are asking you about. And at that point in my life, my twins were playing competitive soccer. And if you've ever had a kid in a competitive sport, you know that everything is at dinner time and it is many days a week. And all the moms on the sidelines at practice and at games were saying, we're going to run through the drive-through, go home, eat dinner, do homework, get the kids in the bath and get them to bed. And I was doing all of that, except for I wasn't running through the drive-through. And they asked me how I was managing this day in and day out. And I had to kind of reverse engineer what I was doing to explain it to others. And it became the beginnings of what is now Feed Your Family Tonight. So I have a blog and I have a podcast, the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast. And then I do weekly television cooking segments on my local ABC affiliate. And right now, during coronavirus time, I am taping from home and sending the tapes into the studio. But I love every minute of doing television. And I love sharing the message that dinner does not have to be complicated. It has to work for your family. And the key thing is you have to think about when you're going to eat before you can even figure out what you're going to eat. And that is a piece of meal planning that so many meal planning systems miss.
Okay, that's fantastic right there. I don't even know how many minutes we're into this, and there you all have your takeaway. Figure out when to eat before you figure out what to eat. That's so brilliant because so much of it is contingent upon what's going on with your family. And I think that leads into my first question that I had, which is what is it about meal planning that it's so desirable, it's so popular, yet it seems so challenging, or you mentioned it being controversial.
Well, the thing is that when you are trying to meal plan, there are a lot of different approaches. There's the approach that I had for most of my life, especially when my kids were little, where I just had a well-stocked freezer, a well-stocked pantry, and at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I would go to my basement pantry and pull out something and figure out what I was going to do. And with that, I had that mental burden of all day having that dinner dread. Have you had that dinner dread knowing that at 5 o'clock you're going to have to feed your family something and they're not going to like it because they're going to complain because it's the same thing that you made last week because you don't have a lot of variety? And breaking out of that was big for me. And I had been following a blog called Simple Simon and Company. They are sewing bloggers. And at the time, they were really focused on couture children's clothing. And I loved watching their stuff. These two ladies are sisters-in-law, but they have the same name because they were both Elizabeth and they married brothers. And so everybody in the town got them mixed up and stuff. But they had one time a post that said how I plan meals in 10 minutes and don't think about it the rest of the week. And I thought, oh, here's another advertisement for a meal planning service. But they talked about how they looked at their activities first. And that became the little spark that changed how I started planning for my family. And I began dropping my kids off at school on Mondays. And I would sit in, there's a hallway kind of just outside the school, and there was a bench that was actually a heater. And so in the winter, you could get your buns toasty warm. And I would take any scrap of paper I had, and most of the time it was like an envelope or like one of those postcard things that go inside magazines. Like I was grabbing a scrap of paper out of my minivan and I was writing the days of the week across the top, thinking about our activities, and I planned my meals, and then I would grocery shop. And by late Monday morning, I had planned my meals for the week. I had gotten my groceries done, and I didn't have to think about it the rest of the week. And it was really freeing for me. But it took a lot of discipline to get to that point. But I've taken away the discipline of that because I can teach you a system that works, that will help you, and you don't have to go through all the learning that I did.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're simplifying the way that we step into this habit. And then once we have the habit, we're good to go. It's what I call the work up front. This is a classic productivity technique where we do a bit of the work up front, but you yield so many benefits after you
Oh,
do that, right?
when I started meal planning, the first thing is that feeling of dinner dread started lifting. I didn't have it. I also got more variety into our family's meals
Mm.
because when I was doing that, go to the freezer at 4 or 5 o'clock at night, we were having boneless, skinless chicken breast and ground beef pretty much every other day. And the reason is because those two things can be thawed and cooked in an hour, which is what I had. And I wasn't thinking, so I had like a freezer full of the beautiful roasts or all sorts of other things, or I couldn't think ahead to make red beans and rice. But when I started planning ahead, then I started listing the prep that I needed to do earlier in the week to be successful later in the week. So let me just kind of go through with you the basics of my meal planning system. If your listeners want a copy of my free weekly meal planning sheet, it will be crystal clear what I'm talking about. It's at feedyourfamilytonight.com/Lisa, and you guys can get a copy of that. So feedyourfamilytonight.com/Lisa. And basically, it lists a place to list your activities. And when I say activities, for me as a mom, it's usually what's happening after school. But if you're a mom of young children, it might be what's happening during the day because maybe that's the day you're running the kid to the doctor's office and they're going to be clingy, cranky the rest of the afternoon. So you're not going to have a lot of energy. Or if you are working full time, if you've got a day that you have meetings back to back to back to back, and when you get home, you're like, I am not going to have energy for dinner. So list the activities that are going to affect what's happening at dinner time. And that might be what's affecting your energy. Then you set a dinner bell. And what a dinner bell is the target time that you're going to eat. Now, me with 4 teenagers, we are in a lot of activities, running different places. Sometimes we're eating at 6 o'clock at night. Sometimes we're eating at 7 o'clock at night. Sometimes we're having to eat in shifts because there isn't a time where everybody's physically home. And I write that on my dinner bell, my target time that we're going to eat. Then I plan the meals that we are going to have. So I write what we're going to have for dinner according to what's happening with our activities. So let me give you an example. There have been days where my girls have had piano from 3:45 to 4:45, soccer from 5 until 6, and I have to be back up at school at 7 for a PTO meeting. So on that day, I have to have something that is in my slow cooker, that is in my oven, that I can pull out and eat at 6:15 the minute we walk in the door from soccer practice. But 2 days later, I've got 30 minutes before dinner where I can be at the stove cooking something physically like a stir fry. So you think about what kinds of meals have hands-on work and what kind of meals have hands-off work. And sometimes the hands-off work meals are those meals that you're serving on those busy days, but they are heavier on the prep at the beginning. So, like, I like to do roast chickens on busy days because I will prep them the night before when I'm cleaning up my dinner dishes and put them in my refrigerator. All I have to do on my soccer day is take them out of the refrigerator, put them in the oven, run my kids to all their activities. I come home and dinner's ready. So it takes a little bit of prep up front. And the prep, there's a place on my weekly meal planning sheet to list the prep, and you list the prep on the day that you need to do it, not the day of the meal. So if I'm doing roast chicken on soccer day, the day before I'm going to write prep chickens. Or if I'm going to have roast beef on Sunday, on Friday I'm going to say take roast out of the freezer. Or red beans and rice, I'm going to soak the beans the day before. And that gets back to what kind of started this question, Lisa, is that by putting the prep on my meal plan, I'm adding variety to our family because I have thought ahead of those things that take a little bit of planning but are easier on the other side.
Yeah, I love that. Again, all of these techniques are really effective productivity techniques where you are, first of all, you're writing all this down. You are mixing and matching. And one of the things you're talking about, one of my favorite topics in the world, is energy management. And really thinking about that. Right now, I have been working with my mother in law to meal plan. And it's been awesome hearing her have this awareness about, oh, I'm going to be going to all these doctor's appointments today. I'm going to be so drained when I get home. I cannot make more plans. So it's not the time to also say I'll go to a meeting or I'll go, run errands. And it's also not the time to say, let's do a complicated meal. That can wait, right?
Well, precisely. Here's the magic. If you want to know the magic about Feed Your Family Tonight, it is in what I call always having a backup. And a backup meal is anything that you can get on the table in 20 minutes or less with ingredients that you keep in your house all the time. Because we are all going to have days where the wheels fall off. And I'm sitting in an orthodontist appointment for an hour and a half because my kid lost a bracket, and making dinner just isn't going to happen that day, even though I'd planned to have an hour and a half at home. So when you need a backup, it's too late to go to the store. So
Yep.
you want to keep these ingredients all the time. My favorite backup is bean and cheese quesadillas. I keep tortillas in my freezer. I keep a can of refried beans in my pantry, and I keep a bag of shredded cheese. And you can put those bean and cheese quesadillas together really fast with some frozen fruit or a frozen veggie, and dinner is on the table. A lot of families use breakfast as dinner.
Oh, I was gonna call out brekkie for dinner. And you know what? It's a fan favorite too, which is really funny.
Yeah, yeah. Get a dozen eggs in a pancake mix, and you keep them in your house all the time, and you can have dinner on the table in 20 minutes. Because again, everybody's plans are going to fall apart at some point, and you want to be ready. And it takes you more than 20 minutes to get to the drive-through and back. And so if you have something that you can get on the table in 20 minutes or less, you're going to save yourself aggravation. It's going to help your budget, and it's going to be there for when you need it.
Exactly. And so some of the things that you're talking about in terms of not only thinking about mixing and matching the energy and the time and how it fits and when you would be doing the work, this is classic project planning right here, where you're saying, I'm going to have a chicken tomorrow, but I can prep it later the night before and have it ready to go. And when you start to know how to put these pieces of the puzzle together, you realize it doesn't all have to happen at once. And that's where the decision fatigue comes in. That's where the stress just skyrockets. And when you start to split it up that way, it dissipates.
That's just it. The decision fatigue is so hard. By taking and spending, it takes me 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning of the week to really look at our schedule and plan our meals. But that 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning of the week just takes so much burden off of me. And here's the other little thing is you have your grocery list then, and you can use a grocery pickup service or a grocery delivery service and type it all in your computer and pick it up on your way home from soccer practice, or tie that trip into other errands that you are running, and it makes grocery shopping easier and faster, and it helps with your budget. When you are planning and you know what you're going to have, you don't have to have that pantry that I had when my kids were younger, full of food. You know exactly what you need for that week, and there's less food waste, and you're so much more focused when you go to the grocery store.
And I'll tell you, two of the things that we do as a family that's really helpful and that leans in even further to saving money is that we use the flyers for the coming week at the different stores to see what the loss leaders are, what is really good sale, and how I can fold that into, the meals for the week. So you can save even more money that way.
Oh, Lisa, I love doing that. Where I live, I have 7 grocery stores that are within 5 minutes of my house. And I do not go to all 7 grocery stores, but I will be honest with you, I usually hit 2 a week. I hit Aldi to get my basics, and
Mhm,
then there's another local store that usually has really high quality meat, and they'll always have one loss leader a week.
mhm.
And so if their loss leader is chicken, I'm adding chicken to my meal plan. If their loss leader is shrimp, I'm adding shrimp to my meal plan. I love that because it can really, really help with your budget. And it also helps you plan seasonally because most of the time the loss leaders are going with what's in season, especially when it comes to produce.
That's right, and that will also encourage the variety that you talked about. And again, if you are listening and you don't have time to get to multiple stores, even choosing one that seems to have the best deals that week and going for that one, and then, it all balances out. But every time you can take a step in this direction to plan, to pull things together, to make intentional choices. Again, it comes back to that intentionality. It will make a difference. It will save you time, money, and frustration, and it will keep getting better and better.
I totally agree. And like anything, it's a muscle that you have to build. So if you try it and then you fall off the bandwagon for a couple of weeks, don't beat yourself up. Just dust off your shoes, pick it up and start where you're at. It doesn't have to be perfect all the time. This is about making your life a little bit better. And if it's not working for you or you stumble a little bit, this is no one's no, the meal planning police isn't going to come and get you. I
Yeah,
promise.
nobody's grading this. And the other thing too is that when you're planning, again, going back to that idea of being intentional, you can intentionally build in a night where you're like, it's a McDonald's run kind of night. Again, it's what works for your family, right? And no, like we have pizza night some nights, or pizza or subs or something like that, where we know we're going to order out. And we'll do that, especially linking up to maybe a day on the weekend, let's say, where we're going to be doing tons of projects. And I don't care how much meal planning you're doing. I don't want to be in that kitchen prepping anything. The only thing I want to prep is somebody to get in the car and go get the food for me. Thank you very much. But again, you build that in.
And I love that because I am not anti drive-through. But I don't want the drive-through to happen to you. I want you to plan for the drive-through and know that you are choosing it intentionally. And that thing about the weekends, oh my gosh, our weekend meals have been ridiculously simple. I post my meal plans on my Instagram
Mhm.
and Facebook group every week. And if you have followed me since the summer, I think we've had hamburgers 90% of Sundays. And my family's okay with that because it's a no-brainer for me. I make my patties ahead of time and I don't have to think about it because I don't want to spend my time cooking on the weekends. And I'm a food expert. I'm a food expert and I don't want to spend my time cooking on the weekends. So most people are just don't want to. So it's okay. Plan for it.
Absolutely. And again, it comes back to something that you mentioned right in the very beginning is that this is not a one size fits all thing. And now, can you all see why I wanted to talk to Marie? I mean, you're hearing the same concepts over and over again for a reason here, that we need to be intentional, that we need to choose what's right for us, that we need to match things up that make sense for us. When you do that, you will get into that habit and it will feel so much easier and freer. And another thing I would love to just get into a little bit, just in terms of encouragement for why we want to make this a habit and we want to build this muscle. We talked about so many benefits already in terms of saving time. It's a productive way to approach things and we're saving money. We talked about it potentially being healthier. And there's so many ways, especially if we have special food needs and things like that. But another part of it, which I know that you describe in terms of what you do, is encouraging the family to get together to have a meal. Because when you're meal planning, that means everyone knows, okay, we're having a meal together. There are so many things relating to that that are so good for kids and parents alike, right?
The research is very clear, Lisa. Teens that have regular meals with their families have lower incidences of drug abuse, underage sex, they have higher grades, they have better self-esteem. It is very, very clear. And the thing about it is I'm not having deep conversations with my teens every night at dinner, but we do sit down together every night at dinner. But I tell you, this Sunday morning at breakfast, we got into a very, very deep conversation about a topic that was very, very tender and very sensitive. And my children just kind of blossomed. And because we have built the habit of sitting together as a family, that deep conversation was okay and it was safe and it was comfortable. If we had just eaten together once a week and that was it, my children wouldn't have that feeling of safety that I have built up over time with them by having family dinners. So you're not going to have deep conversations every night, but when you build the habit of having dinner time together and having the space for those conversations, they will happen.
Yeah, you're building the connectivity just by showing up together, by laughing together, and getting used to simply asking the question. We joke, we'll each look at each other, how was your day, dear? And we'll laugh. But when you start to get into the habit of even asking that question, you are modeling for them and honestly teaching yourself to ask that question of not only them, but yourself.
Right, right. And it's good for us too. I I love the times where we have slower meals, and I'm telling you, some meals it's 20 minutes, eat and get the dishes in the dishwasher and run.
Yeah.
But the times where you have that slower meal, it's just good. We have a family dinner with my parents and my sister and her children about once a week, and my mother has gotten in the habit of asking everyone, did someone make you happy this week, or how have you made someone happy this week? And my children have learned to prepare for that. And so throughout the week, they're reflecting on little moments of joy that they have either brought others or others have brought them. And that habit of that has been so enriching for our family.
Oh, that's right in line with kindness and gratitude, and that we've used dinner time as a gratitude practice. And also, we've used dinner time as a time to say, is that appropriate dinner time conversation, or did you want to share that later? I think I'll share that later. So we're starting to create filters, which is absolutely hysterical, and we all laugh quite a bit. So it's all good.
Oh, Lisa, my husband will laugh at my kids and like, you could lose a job over that. If you did that at a job interview, I mean, so yes, but they're learning what's appropriate and they're learning in a safe place and a loving place. And sometimes the teasing and the laughing is just as important as the deep conversations.
Very much so. And I just want to remind everybody too that the connectivity that we're talking about and the creating that safe space and that place to have a conversation, we're talking about feeding your family. We're talking about eating together. We're talking about meal planning, and nobody said it had to be dinner. You even pointed out that, the weekend brunch, or maybe based on everybody's schedule. And if you do a different shift at a job or something like that, maybe breakfast is the time, or maybe it's a midday lunch or something like that. There are opportunities to make those connections in whatever way works for you. So it's not just dinner. It's great if you can do dinner, but family meals, period, in some way, in any way that you can do it, all benefit you.
Oh, I totally agree. And my friends at the Family Dinner Project will say that anytime you can sit down together is a family meal. And it's about family meals, not necessarily family dinners, especially when you hit the teenage years like where I'm at.
Yeah, good, good. And that is a fantastic segue into the idea of taking these concepts that we've talking about, these simple approaches, and making the right kinds of connections, and translating that to the big meals we often think about during the holidays. And I'm wondering, can we take many of these principles and put them toward holiday planning and meals and things like that?
Oh my goodness, yes. And here's the thing is, holidays can creep up on you and you can get yourself in a flurry really really fast trying to do all the things, but that idea of being intentional and the idea of making choices early in the season as to what you're going to emphasize and what you're going to let go is so so important. I have a holiday planner that is out right now, and it has meal planning. There's a piece of meal planning in it, but it gets deeper into gift giving and listing everybody that you're going to be giving a gift to, from the teacher to your neighbor to your mailman, like anything that you are going to give. And then when you list your gifts, you list your budget and your gift ideas, and then where you can buy those gifts, and then you can take that information and put it into another sheet that I have in there, which is your websites and retailers. And so you might be buying a present for the mailman and your niece and your husband all at the same online place. And you can do it in one online shopping trip, which is going to save you time. It is going to save you money in shipping. And it's because you have thought intentionally about the gifts that you are giving.
I love that you bring that up. And episode 22 of the Positively Living podcast is on clutter free gift giving. So, my guest Katie and I talk about this very thing. And I think that's the perfect matchup. Listen to that episode, get some ideas from that. Go to Marie's planner and put that together. And again, these words that keep coming up: intentional, that's a big one. Planning early, batching things together, that's another great productivity tip. Oh my gosh, that's going to reduce the stress so much. And then you're thinking ahead so that when you get to the moments, even the moments before, even the weeks before a big holiday, for us in November, it's Thanksgiving, even weeks before, if you haven't been thinking about it ahead of time, it can feel so stressful. But if you have this, and again, written down, speaking of which, when you described sitting in the minivan with a random envelope, I just want to point out that tools are not the things. I'm sure there are many apps and really interesting things. And if you have any resources, I welcome you to tell us that. But the bottom line is, it's the process: a pen and a piece of paper, notes on your iPhone, whatever it happens to be, that you can capture these ideas and track them.
Oh my goodness. I totally believe that. And, having a place to catch those random scraps of paper is a really good idea. So try and have one place where all the paper in your house goes. And that has been something that's been life changing for me, is that I have one box where any piece of paper that comes into the house goes to that box, because I am writing on random scraps of paper. I'm taking notes in my iPhone, but I really believe there's something therapeutic about using a pen and paper that helps connect my brain to my deeper what's happening in my heart. So when I'm thinking about gifts or when I'm thinking about meals and I'm actually putting a pen or a pencil to a paper, my brain internalizes it better. The other thing is it slows me down.
Mm.
I use my phone and my notes, don't get me wrong, but oftentimes I'm taking those and transferring them to paper because the act of putting them on paper slows me down and it gets me in the moment. There's less distractions. Our phone, there's 100 apps on there, and I love my phone apps, don't get me wrong. But when I go to the paper, the phone is to the side and I can focus on what's in front of me with less distractions.
That is such a good point about slowing you down. I do know that there is science behind the connectivity between our brain and writing something. And this idea, like when you're taking notes, and I'm a big fan of my apps as well, but there's definitely a special connection. And the idea of slowing down is such a good one. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to say one more thing about the Feed Your Family Tonight holiday planner, because there's one thing that I think really is in line with what you believe, Lisa, and that is my idea of a pre-holiday shopping for basics.
Mm.
So, what I encourage families to do, and I have a whole sheet so that you can plan through the items that you're going to buy, but buy enough staples in early December to get you through until January so that when you're doing your grocery shopping, you are only buying perishable items. So, buy all of your shampoo, all of your toilet paper, all of your canned goods, all of your paper products that you're going to need. And if you can take one morning and do that, you will save yourself so much brain space throughout the holidays because there are less things on your to buy list because you're going to be buying more things for gifts. I mean, most of us are going to be buying at least a few gifts. And so when you're not trying to buy the staples on top of the gifts, on top of your fresh fruits and vegetables and what you have to get at the grocery store, there is less decision fatigue because you've already made the decision earlier. And there is less physical time that you're out when stores are extra busy. That one simple thing of taking a couple hours will give you so much peace the rest of the holiday season.
That is a great suggestion. Doing some of that bulk, non perishable shopping ahead of time, because so many people do need to be out there shopping. It is so much busier. It is so much more stressful just in terms of the energy. And if you can remove yourself from that, yeah, that has lasting benefits as well. Great. I love that. All right. I think that is a wealth of information to help take everybody's stress down and their meals up. And I would love to wrap this up with a little bit of fun and a little bit of final inspiration. If you would fill in the blank for me, please, the song that always makes me dance.
Sure. Jump Around by House of Pain. I am a girl of the 80s and 90s. And if the song is saying jump around, jump up, and jump down, well, you're going to jump.
It's true. It literally tells you what to do. I
Yeah.
love that. All right. How about the quote or mantra I share most often is
It's by Dale Carnegie. It's, 1 hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing.
love that.
That's just how my life and my business stay sane.
Yeah. And that's what I'm about. So that's a great one. All right. Now, how about a resource, app, or book that makes my life easier relating to anything?
I have been really enjoying this app called Voxer. And I know you said, Lisa, that you're on Voxer. It is a walkie talkie app. And you're thinking, walkie talkie app, why do I need that? I have a private coaching clients that I help when people are food bloggers and chefs that are trying to get on TV, and I can connect with my students. They can message me anytime, and I can pick up and listen to the messages when it is convenient for me and respond to them. I have a group of mastermind women that I'm with that we meet together, but we have almost daily updates that are happening in this Voxer. And what's great is you can hear their voices so you don't have to take the time to type it because it's all voice. You can type if you want in there, but most of it's voice memos. And then you can listen to it in double time. So if someone's taking their time and thinking slowly to a thought, I can listen to it in double time and I can still learn everything that they're wanting to tell me, but it takes less of my time. It is just the handiest little app. I love it.
I love it too. And I love it because I'm an external processor and I like to speak and I like to hear people's voices because it's so much quicker to know how they're feeling, if they're frantic, if they're stressed, if they're calm, what's going on with them. You can star also messages to listen to later and put them in your starred folder, which I absolutely love if there's one that you want to listen to and repeat, right? There's a
Oh,
tip.
I've never done that. I haven't
Yeah.
done that, Lisa. You might have just changed my world there. Oh, it's such a handy app.
Life changer. Awesome. Okay. And now, last but definitely not least, what or whom are you grateful for today, Marie?
I'm just grateful for you. I'm grateful for the chance to share the message of Feed Your Family tonight because I just want to help busy families get a little calm in the crazy. And I am just grateful for the chance to share that. So thank you, Lisa.
Oh, you are so welcome. I am most definitely grateful for you. And I know everyone will want to stay connected. We talked about your planners and your freebies. So just a reminder, it's feedyourfamilytonight.com.
Yes, that's my website.
Yep.
If they want the free weekly meal planning sheet, I'll have it at /Lisa.
Okay.
So you've got that. And then if you are interested in the holiday planner, it's an inexpensive digital download and there's like 35 pages in it. It's full of stuff. It's at feedyourfamilytonight.com/holiday.
Brilliant. And I will make sure to have all of those links in the show notes so that you can find Marie. You can find all of these goodies. Thank you, Marie. Thank you for shining your light in this world and for sharing it with us today.
Oh, the pleasure was mine, Lisa. Thanks for having me.
1 hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing. Dale Carnegie. Thank you for joining me on the Positively Living podcast. Your time is precious, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. Would you like to further explore the topics you've heard and implement what inspires you? Could you use some coaching support? What if you could attend a private Q&A with my guests and access bonus content? You can do all that and more in the Positively Living membership community. Check the link in the show notes or head to positivelyproductive.com/membership to enroll. I look forward to having you join me next episode and in the community. Until then, keep it positive and keep making space for what matters most.